My Hero Academia Season 7 complete recap.
Let us begin. As Japan suffers under the chaos wrought by Shigaraki, All for One, and the escaped villains, America's top hero Star and Stripe defies orders and flies in to help. Meanwhile, All for One plots to steal Star's quirk, New Order, hoping to secure his domination. Endeavor, Hawks, and Best Jeanist head to intercept Star, but learn Shigaraki has reached her first. Star reveals her quirk allows her to impose new rules on targets she touches and calls by name. She attacks Shigaraki, but her quirk doesn't work because he is struggling with his identity as he continues to fuse with All for One. Star summons a massive air construct and pins him down, awaiting her guided missile backup, Tiamat. Star launches the Tiamat missiles, but Shigaraki evades by decaying the ocean and attacks across fighter jets. He manages to touch Star and steal New Order while decaying her, but she has set a trap. New Order will rebel against any other quirk. The power violently disrupts Shigaraki's body, destroying several of his quirks. As Star dies, she salutes her comrades and thanks All Might. Shigaraki attempts to implant New Order into another person, but the quirk is destroyed. Within the chaos, Tenko Shimura briefly surfaces, calling to Deku. All Might later meets the US military to collect combat data and shares it with Class 1A, who prepare for the coming battle. Shigaraki retreats to recover as All for One initiates new plans. Class 1A trains and discusses their disadvantage against the elusive villain. Meanwhile, Hagakure spies on Aoyama and discovers he and his parents are All for One's spies. Aoyama, born quirkless, was given his naval laser by All for One under duress. He confesses tearfully, and Izuku and Hagakure restrain the family. Though Aoyama sees himself as a villain, Izuku insists he can still be a hero. Class 1A realizes Aoyama could be their key to drawing All for One out. The adults remain wary of Aoyama, but Aizawa backs Class 1A and reveals a plan to use him as bait. Izuku and Ida visit the development course and get support upgrades from Hatsume. Meanwhile, All Might and international forces form a strategy to divide the villains geographically to weaken them. Aizawa encourages Aoyama to trust in himself and his classmates. Elsewhere, Shinso is recruited to assist in the operation. Toga visits her ruined childhood home, reflecting on her past. Dabi burns it down and reveals he gave her twice his blood so she can use his quirk. Shigaraki undergoes a monstrous transformation due to quirk overload. Spinner, pressured by Skeptic, reluctantly agrees to lead the heteromorph riots. At UA, Nezu announces the villains will attack in 4 days, and the students prepare to move off campus. Izuku thanks Uraraka for her earlier speech, and she confides her complex feelings about Toga. Meanwhile, All for One orders Aoyama to lure Izuku into a trap. When Izuku arrives, Aoyama betrays All for One. As villains swarm the area, the heroes counterattack using Kurogiri's warp gates, launching the final battle. The plan is revealed. Shinso brainwashes Aoyama to deceive All for One, and Monoma copies warp gate to deploy the heroes. As the battle begins, All Might activates Operation Troy, trapping villains in cages and warping them across the country. All for One faces Endeavor and Hawks at Gunga, while Dabi confronts Shoto in Kamino. Deku, meant to fight Shigaraki at the floating island UA, is intercepted by Toga and warped to Okuto Island. A heavily armed team prepares to face Shigaraki, using Erasure, an electric cage, and anti-decay structures to contain him. But Shigaraki's body mutates, unleashing monstrous fingers. Shigaraki's finger barrage overwhelms the heroes. Eraserhead contacts Deku, but realizes warping him in would deactivate Erasure too long. Deku must get there himself. On Okuto Island, Toga confesses her love to Deku and attacks after he fails to understand her feelings. Tsuyu intervenes, allowing Deku to leave and entrusting Uraraka with Toga. Meanwhile, in Kamino, Dabi confronts Shoto, expressing disappointment over Endeavor's absence, and begins revealing his origins. Dr. Garaki recounts how Toya was taken by All for One as a backup vessel for Shigaraki and presumed dead, only to return as Dabi years later. Dabi tells Shoto he came home once, but saw Endeavor's abuse continue and chose to destroy his past. He attacks recklessly, while Shoto counters with his new technique, Phosphor, blending fire and ice. The brothers battle until Shoto lands a freezing blow that incapacitates Dabi. Shoto's victory is broadcast by All Might. In Jaku, heroes battle to prevent Gigantomachia's release. At Central Hospital, Spinner leads an army to free Kurogiri, while in Kamino, Dabi's body begins glowing ominously. At Gunga, All for One fights Endeavor and Hawks. All for One reveals he abducted Toya, shocking Endeavor and allowing a surprise attack. Hawks is saved by Tokoyami and Jiro, who joins the fight. All for One lashes out, injuring Jiro. Despite the injury, Jiro attacks All for One, triggering his quirks to rebel. Hawks and Tokoyami use the chance to destroy his mask. All for One regains control and retaliates. Endeavor returns, sacrificing his arm to corner All for One and unleashes a prominence burn. But All for One regenerates. Meanwhile, Bakugo launches a massive counterattack using his new gear, but Shigaraki withstands it and breaks his arm. Shigaraki overpowers Bakugo, aiming to kill him. The big three arrive to assist, and Mirio's remark about Shigaraki's lack of friends causes Tenko's vestige to re-emerge. Tamaki unleashes his strongest attack, but it's not enough. Bakugo, injured, still counters with such speed that Shigaraki is momentarily shaken. Bakugo sees a vision of All Might before Shigaraki lands a blow to his heart, leaving him seemingly dead. As the heroes mourn Bakugo, Dabi reignites using Shoto's phosphor. All for One unveils a new body, restored by a rewind-based drug, but will eventually cease to exist. In America, debates begin about siding with Shigaraki. At UA, Ed's shop begins repairing Bakugo's heart from the inside. Shigaraki mutates into a defensive state, knocking out most heroes. Mandalay calls for time to open the electric gate. Mirio distracts Shigaraki just long enough for Deku to arrive with a surprise attack. Deku returns, aided by the US military. Shocked by the damage, he loses control of his quirks until Mirio calms him. Deku confirms Shigaraki is still inside the body. Using the second user's quirk, Gear Shift, which allows him to change speed at will, Deku blitzes Shigaraki, overwhelming him. All for One is disturbed, recalling killing the second user and underestimating his quirk. Deku lands a massive blow, but the villain's body begins reacting again. Elsewhere, Spinner and the Heteromorph army storm Central Hospital. As the Liberation Executive preaches rebellion, Shoji questions their cause, revealing his scarred face. Spinner, unstable from added quirks, attacks. Koda recalls Shoji's painful past and joins him to resist the army. Shoji makes an emotional plea to redirect their anger. Though Spinner remains defiant, the crowd begins to waver. As some heteromorphs reach the hospital, their resolve falters. One civilian defends Shoji, prompting others to halt the attack. Spinner reaches Kurogiri's pod, but is knocked out by Present Mike. Before Mike can destroy Kurogiri, Spinner revives him using Shigaraki's hand. Kurogiri awakens with Shirakumo's face visible. Meanwhile, Dabi and a Twice clone warp to Gunga, terrifying Hawks. Toga had consumed Twice's blood and proceeded to unleash Sad Man's Parade. Uraraka and Tsuyu follow Toga. The doubles overrun UA, nullifying Erasure, and Shigaraki explodes. Skeptic hacks UA, causing it to fall. Deku recovers from Gear Shift exhaustion as La Brava counterhacks Skeptic, exposing his location. Gentle then halts UA's descent. Shigaraki nearly uses his quirk, but Lady Nagant snipes his hand, saving everyone. Despite injuries, Lady Nagant assists from afar. In the Vestige world, Shigaraki rejects All for One's control, declaring his wish to destroy everything from his past. Deku pushes their fight to the ground. Kurogiri becomes confused due to Shirokumo's influence and saves Aizawa and Mike at the last second. Hawks pursues All for One, and Shiketsu students join the battle. Tokoyami lands a brutal hit, while Toga discovers she cannot replicate the League's quirks, falling into despair. Uraraka spots the real Toga crying. Meanwhile, the heroes pressure All for One, who attempts to escape, but is confronted by Makia, now brainwashed by Shinzo. All for One tries to break the brainwashing, but Makia willingly attacks All for One for abandoning him. Reporters arrive to capture the fight, and people begin to watch worldwide. All for One ultimately kills Makia, steals Hawk's quirk, and decides to leave without taking Tokoyami's quirk due to Mineta's desperate plea. Evacuation tunnels are compromised, and Dabi's imminent explosion threatens thousands. With no backup, All Might calls in Shoto and Ida. Ida rockets them to Gunga as All Might prepares to face All for One alone, using a powered suit. At Gunga, Endeavor tries to draw Dabi away, but he has lost his mind. Recognizing that Dabi developed Rei's ice quirk, Endeavor prepares to sacrifice himself, but Rei and the siblings intervene to cool him down. As Dabi accepts their attention, Shoto arrives and neutralizes the explosion with his great glacial A-gear. Endeavor then deeply apologizes to his family. Toga's doubles overwhelm the heroes, and Uraraka tries to talk to her. Toga recalls her painful childhood and lashes out. The doubles begin copying other heroes, turning the tide against them. Toga stabs Uraraka, but the latter continues to plead with her. Inspired, Uraraka undergoes a quirk awakening, lifting everyone into the air. She confesses her love for Izuku and asks Toga to express her feelings. Toga, moved, smiles tearfully and stops attacking. The doubles fade away. As Uraraka nears death, Toga saves her by transforming into her and performing a blood transfusion. Uraraka begs her to stop, but Toga insists on doing what she wants. She thanks Uraraka for making her feel seen and dies peacefully. Meanwhile, All Might battles All for One, using support gear named after Class 1A. Despite heavy damage, All Might refuses to fall, standing tall against the rewinding villain. Deku, fighting Shigaraki, senses the stakes escalating.
Now that you know everything you need to know, go and enjoy Season 8. Peace.